Here's a quick overview of the reset options in PolyNome. I have a bar of 16th notes here, and I've tapped below the rhythm so that I can add some sounds. If I want to add an 8th note hi-hat part, I can enter R for the hi-hat and then a rest, and you can see that this will be repeated over the entire rhythm. If I hit done and play, you can see that we now have an 8th note hi-hat rhythm. I'll edit the rhythm again, and on line 2 I'll put a kick on beat 1 and then a snare on beat 2. Now when I entered under beat 2, I haven't yet filled the gaps before that, so I have to decide if I want to repeat the existing sticking, which is a K, or invert it, which would turn it to an H, or fill with rests. If I fill with rests, you'll see that it populates those 3 spaces with underscores. That's the rest. That means nothing will be played on that line. But you can see on line 2 that those sounds are going to repeat. It's going to start with the kick immediately after this snare finishes. So if I go back to the main screen and play this, it's going to look a bit odd. I'll apply. You can see that the snare and kick are changing with each repeat because PolyNome is playing that 5-note grouping of kick, rest, 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 snare, and looping it. So in order for this to play like a regular pattern, I need to go to the end of beat 2 and hit rest and fill with rests. And now I have a kick snare which will repeat on the second half of the pattern. So this is slightly odd behavior, but it's something that PolyNome does that other apps don't do. And if you're a drummer, you could do things like play a 5-note grouping over the top of a groove, and that 5-note grouping will go over bar lines. But if you don't want this behavior and you'd rather just enter a sound for every note, you can tap on Reset Off and choose Fill Cycle with Rests. And now you'll see that those things that we've entered are not repeated. And when I go back to the main page, all we hear is the sounds that I actually entered. So we can go back in and edit the rhythm, and I could type those in individually. This just takes a lot longer. Okay, and then you would do the same for the next line. Now I'll show you a little tip. If I hit clear, if I do right rest, and then I can select under the last note and put a rest, and I can choose repeat existing sticking, and that will automatically fill with what I've entered. I can do the same for the kick snare. I can tap on the last note and put a rest and say repeat existing sticking, and that gives me the kick snare. And then I could go in, for example, and change this kick note. I can delete that and replace it with another kick, and now we have this drum groove. Now when you create new presets from the presets library by tapping plus new rhythm, if you want it to default to fill cycle with rests, you can load the template preset, and then you can edit this rhythm, tap on the sounds, and make sure that the setting is fill cycle with rests. Basically, whatever changes you make to this template preset will be used as the starting point for creating new rhythms in PolyNome.